What's up, guys? Classy Metal here. It is Sunday, so we're ready to knock off another chunk of the CD collection. I think this video number 68. We're still in the G's. After we finish this video, I think we have like three or four more albums in the G section, and then we move on to the H's. So we're finally getting wrapped up with the G's. It seems like we've been doing these videos forever. Maybe one day we will make it through the entire collection. First up, we have a black metal band out of St. Petersburg, Russia. This is Grief Rain with Spring Illusion. I absolutely love this album. I could not speak the praises of this release enough. This came out, it's been out for a while. In my head, I'm wanting to say 2014. I don't see a date on this at all. I could be way off on this, but it was released on Throats Productions. Grief Rain, they're kind of, I'm not going to call them an atmospheric black metal band. There are some atmospheric kind of feels going on in this. They're a very nature driven band, as you can see. Early on in their career, they were like an instrumental black metal project. I'm glad they kind of moved away from that because I do really enjoy the vocals that are present on their latter releases. There's only two physical. They had some albums that came out before this, but this is the first album that I've ever been able to find on a physical format, and I do like that one. I like it so much that I did feature it in that giveaway that I had not too long ago, and actually went out and purchased some copies to gift in VCLTs and that type of stuff. And then I guess this was their last full length. This one's going to be kind of hard to see because of the artwork. This is Wolf Cult by Grief Rain. This one is really solid. I like this one a lot. This one came out, I'm wanting to say around 2018, and it's a very simple presentation physically. As you can see, there's not just a whole lot going on. But as I was saying earlier about this band and the vocals on this are super strong. This one, I really love Spring Illusion. This one may have grown on me to the point where I like it a little bit more. I have not heard anything else from this project, but I don't even know if they're still technically together because it has been quite some time since Wolf Cult came out. I would hope that they have some more material coming out in the future, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Next up, we have some atmospheric black metal. This came out right in kind of that atmospheric black metal heyday where there were bands popping up everywhere. I kind of liken it to the point now, kind of this new wave of old school death metal that you just have so many bands popping up. And it was kind of an exciting time for me as far as atmospheric black metal goes because I kept on finding these new bands. Everything still felt fresh and kind of new to me. And this is another one that I just absolutely loved when it came out. This is Grieving Mirth with, I'm going to butcher this, Calamitosis Omine. This, as I was saying, atmospheric black metal. This is an international band. Has members. At the time that this was released, I believe there were three members in the project. I think one lived in the U.S., one lived in Mexico, and I'm wanting to say somewhere in the U.K., maybe Scotland. The third member was a part of the band. I believe the vocalist has since left, but this is the only release that they've ever put out. This came out in 2015 on Loud Rage Music. Killer stuff. I like this. This is another one that I wish I'd heard something else from this project moving forward because I really did like this. Changing gears a little bit, kind of moving away from black metal. This is a kind of speed metal / traditional heavy metal band. I'm going to say they're out of Norway. This album came out way back, I think in 2002 on Season of Mist. This is Griffin with the Sideshow. This is okay. I got this in a grab bag at some point. I liked it more than I expected to. I was really not expecting much out of this. It did hit me a little better than what I expected. I was expecting something just overly proggy and not really up my alley. This isn't something that I'm going to pull off the shelf every day and listen to, but for what it was a pretty solid release. So, back to black metal. This is a band out of Sweden. This was released on Nordvis Productions. I believe this was the first actual project, the first release that this project ever released. This is Grift with Phaedra Eligier. Yeah, I butchered that, and I apologize. But this is a solid EP. 2013 is when this came out, so it's been out for quite some time. There is a little promo thing that is inside of this case that I love, that I kept. That sometimes I throw these little promo flyers that tend to come with some CDs away. I had to keep this one just because it says at the bottom there. I don't know if my camera's going to make it out, but it says "Poor Music for Poor People," and the fact that I am on video 68 of my CD collection and still in the G section kind of gives you an insight of why I am poor. But I really do like this. Very solid debut EP from Grift. I have some other material of theirs, some full lengths, but they were released on A5 digipacks. I don't get A5s. I don't understand it. I think I just stop releasing releases on A5 digipacks, please. If you're going to do a digipack, I'll deal with it. But A5s, they don't fit on my shelf. I don't understand that presentation, but it is what it is. I have some releases they're tucked away somewhere else. At some point after we wrap up the CD collection itself, and on these shelves, I may pull off the A5s and show those, and just completely finish off the CD collection. I do have their 2020 release. This was their last full length. I believe they had a EP, like a 2-track EP that came out earlier this year. I have not heard that one, but this full length that came out in 2020 is pretty solid. This is Grift with Boudet. Just more nature-driven black metal. Another one that kind of leans into that atmospheric, nature-driven side of things. Kind of folky at times, but killer stuff from Grift, so I do enjoy that. I apologize for that little A5 rant there. I don't even know where that came from. Next up, we have a band that was very overlooked, and it came out, it was kind of at the tail end of that atmospheric black metal. Like, there were so many, just that genre, that subgenre of metal was just so oversaturated, and I think that's why this one just kind of got overlooked. This is more of kind of shoegaze. There are some black metal elements that are present in this, but it's kind of a post. I would lean more towards a like post black metal and shoegaze kind of experience. But this is Grief and Bliss with their 2017 release Endeavor. This is super solid. It's a shame that this didn't get the traction and the attention that it deserved. Transcending Records, they tend to put out this stuff, this kind of obscure stuff that unfortunately gets overlooked sometimes, and it definitely should not. But I really did like Grief and Bliss. If you haven't heard this, I definitely suggest that you do so. You can find physicals of this super cheap, and it's definitely worth picking up. I kind of messed with the brightness on the camera a little bit, so hopefully it works out when I post it online. Just a little thing there, because it looked like I was almost nuclear. The light that was going between the window and my light that's in the room, I was glowing, and so hopefully you can see these album artworks and it's not affecting. Sometimes if I change any little thing, it messes the sound and everything up. So fingers crossed that this video works out. Next up, a band that I've completely just fallen head over heels in love with. This is Grima. I believe that's how you pronounce the name. I've heard it pronounced Grima. I've always pronounced it Grima. With their debut full length entitled Devotion to Lord. This is not first press technically. It is the first press that was available through Nottermock Productions. There was a CDR version, I guess, that the band put out. This is their debut full length. Prior to, I guess, being signed or releasing material through Nottermock Productions. But this is a killer debut full length. It's probably my least favorite in their discography, but that's okay because they've got some killer stuff moving forward, and it is still a very solid album. Had I not heard the rest of their discography already, this is something that would get me excited to hear more material from this band moving forward. Next up, this was my introduction to the band, actually. This is their second full-length entitled Tales of the Enchanted Woods. Absolutely love this album. For a little bit, this was my favorite release that this band had put out. It is just absolutely astounding, atmospheric black metal, and I don't know. I love this band. I love the fact that the next little batch of I just dropped the disc out of it. I love this album so much I'm throwing it around. Like the presentation, it's in a digipack, but it's simple, and I can dig it. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I don't know. That was my favorite release from them for quite some time. Then we have the follow-up to that entitled Wheel of the Primordial. Just more solid, nature-driven, atmospheric black metal. I liked this one. I was a little bit kind of let down just because I enjoyed Tales of the Enchanted Woods so much. I wanted them to kind of move forward in that general vein of things. They changed it up a little bit on this one. Still super solid album, but I think my expectations were just so flighty and so up after just falling in love with Tales of the Enchanted Woods that I probably just had unreal expectations on this particular release, but it was a solid release nonetheless. And then moving forward to what is without a doubt my favorite Grima release, this is Rotten Garden. If you've been following this channel, you know that this was my album of the year last year. Still love this release. I cannot get enough of this one. This band is just churning out material like crazy. I do have their newest full length entitled Frostbitten. It's just on a different portion of the shelf, so I won't be showing it in this particular video. I do like that one, but Rotten Garden, for me, this just fired on every cylinder. I mean, it was just perfect. It was about as perfect of an atmospheric black metal that I think I've ever heard, album that I've ever heard, and that definitely my favorite release from the band there. Next up, this is a band that was a death metal band from the late 80s, early 90s that kind of split up, got back together in the early 2010s, I would say, and put out their first full length. And this was released on Horror, Pain, Gore, Death Productions. And I have to say, Horror, Pain, Gore, Death Productions has a knack for releasing killer albums with atrocious artworks. They have albums that come out and I see the artwork, and I never would have checked this out just based on the artwork. Looking at it now, it's very fitting that I've actually heard the album. I got this in one of those HPGD grab bags, and it's so much better than I expected from the artwork. I went in with low expectations. I was not expecting death metal at all, and then when I listened to this and then kind of looked into the band, the artwork makes complete sense now, but it's just, I find so many of that through that HPGD that the artwork is not what it doesn't. It doesn't just grab me and make me want to listen to that album. And then when I listened to it, I was like, man, this is some solid stuff. This is Grim Legion with Unholy Resurrection. And for me, that artwork just doesn't do it. But then you get to thinking that this was a band from the late 80s and early 90s. That looks like some artwork, straight early 90s death metal artwork. So in the vein of what this album sounds like, it absolutely works. I'm glad that I got this in that grab bag because I never would have checked it out otherwise, and it's just some killer stuff. I am rambling today. This might turn into a long video. Next up, we have some death metal out of Italy. This is Grimness 69 with their latest, I guess their last full length. It's been out for probably 10 years now. This one is entitled The Bridge. I'm pretty sure this band is disbanded and no longer together. This is a band that started out kind of grindcore-ish, death grind, and they kind of evolved into a death metal sound by the time that this album came out. Very solid. I do like this one. They do still have the kind of death grindy portions going on in this particular release, and this is kind of where the high point of the band was for me. It's unfortunate that they disbanded shortly after this album because I did like this one. I would have liked to have seen where they continued on moving forward after this release. Next up, this is another early 90s release. This was recently reissued. I say recently, it hasn't been just super recently, but recently issued through Distorted Harmony Records. This is a four-way split just entitled Grinding Syndicate. This was a split from the early 90s, so you know it has to be good when a four-way split from the early 90s is reissued in modern times. This features the bands Cacophania, Gibbed, Anarchist, and Multiplex. Just some killer death metal. There's some grindcore stuff going on this. I haven't listened to it in a bit, so I don't want to speak. There were some bands that I wasn't really familiar with going forward, but this sounds like some stuff that Ken over at Ken's Death Metal Crypt would have thrown on one of those mixtapes or mix CDs that he makes for people and distributes sometimes. This sounds like something that definitely could have just come out of his little wheelhouse there, and I do like this. I believe I got this in a grab bag as well, or somebody threw it in a freebie in an order. But some good stuff there. So definitely want to spend some more time with that one in the future when I'm able to find time. Next up, we have a band out of Hungary, perhaps. That's where my mind is telling me they're from. This is Grrmba, Grrrmba, with a self-titled. I just call them Grrmba. This is kind of blackened, doomy sludge death metal. So let's see how many genre tags we can throw into this. I get this kind of blackened sludge vibe going on, just mixed in, and there's some death metal going on in this as well. Pretty solid release. I got this, I believe, from Metallic Media at one point. I think in one of those big grab bags that they used to have. I don't think Metallic Media is even around anymore, but I'm pretty sure that's where this came from. This is released on NGC Productions. This is number 87 out of 300. It is hand numbered there on the back. Pretty decent stuff. I do like this. This is another one that I'd never, if it had not come in a grab bag, I probably never even would have heard of this. I probably never would have listened to it. So it's one of those that I'm thankful that I got in something like that, because I did enjoy it. Next up, we have a black metal project out. I forget where this band is from. This is Gru with Casualty of the Psychic Wars. This came out in 2014-ish, somewhere around in there. At first, when I first listened to this, I was kind of put off by the vocals. It's not something that, it's not like a beginner black metal band. It's not something that if you've never heard black metal ever before, it's not something that you're going to start out and want to listen to. It's kind of grown on me. They had a release that came out, I believe, about 5 years ago, that I want to pick up as well. I just have not gotten around to doing it. But the longer that I kind of spent some time with this and started listening to it, it did start growing on me. Musically, it's phenomenal. It's just that sometimes those vocals just were, at first they were just kind of irking me, but they've kind of grown on me. Next up, we have some U.S. death metal. This is Gruesome with their debut full-length entitled Savage Land. This was just a monolith debut full-length. I mean, this is one that just, when it hit, it took off. I'm sure it exceeded anybody's expectations that thought that this was going to go anywhere. I know it sold out back then super fast, and it's just a killer release. It's something that I still find myself returning to. Relapse Records knocked it out of the park when they released this one. I believe this is the first pressing on Relapse. It has the matrix, not the matrix, but the catalog number there with a 1 beside it. So I'm assuming that's probably first press on that. Then we have their EP that followed up on that entitled Dimensions of Horror. Killer stuff there. It's hard for me to pick out which is my favorite. Savage Land is probably my favorite release from Gruesome, period. But Dimensions of Horror is very solid in its own right. I mean, I do like this one almost just as much as Savage Land. It's kind of hard sometimes to it's not really fair to compare EPs and full lengths, because EPs you don't have as much time to work with, and you can just put the very best of your very best material on that. But then we have their last full length. It's definitely time, I think, for them to put out another full length. I know they had that split with Exhumed that came out not too terribly long ago, but this was the last of their full lengths. This is Twisted Prayers. This one was okay. I do like the prior two physical releases that I own from them a little bit better, but this was still definitely pretty solid. That split they did with Exhumed was pretty good as well. I do not have that one, so. Next up, a black and death metal band that features the Guttural Monk, Pete, on vocals. I'm going to butcher this band name. This is Gukurahundi with an apparition in Nocturnal Splendor. Pete is an awesome dude. He sent me a little care package. It's been many years ago now, but I was going through a very tough time. I won't get into what I was going through, but he sent me a little care package, even signed it, said keep your head up, man. And I'm still very thankful to this day for Pete for doing that. But some awesome kind of blackened death metal, some very different sounding stuff here. Some of you may not have even heard this, but if you haven't, you might want to go check that one out because it's pretty solid. You will see, you've probably already seen some stuff that he's been a part of in the CD collection as I hit those kind of chunks going, but the stuff is definitely in here that he's a part of. Next up, these next four, I think I hit up at an antique mall, and they were like 50 cents a piece, and so I just went ahead and grabbed them. We have some Guns N' Roses. We have Appetite for Destruction. This one, I had to change a couple of the cases out on some of these because they had those old cases that were still cracked and beat up. But I was like, for 50 cents, I will throw that in the CD collection. The album, the disc itself, still looked to be in fairly decent shape, so I went ahead and grabbed it. We have Use Your Illusion 1 from Guns N' Roses. Not really in the wheelhouse of stuff that I tend to listen to often, but it's definitely there. If I ever have that kind of itch to listen to this stuff, it is definitely there. I think this is the only one. No, the next two I didn't have to change the cases out. This is Use Your Illusion 2. It's so funny, these older releases, the quality of plastic that the jewel cases are in, just like the weight of the jewel case. The jewel case on this one is so heavy. And then we picked up the Spaghetti Incident, and this one is also this was a little bit later release, and the jewel case, there's like a definite difference between this jewel case and this jewel case. This is when I guess they started cutting plastic and cutting materials, cutting cost, but like some of those older 90s CD releases, late 80s, early 90s CDs releases, if they're still in those original cases and you get a hold of one of those, you can just feel the difference and how heavy the case is. Next up, we have some slamming brutal death metal going from Guns N' Roses to some slam. This is the Gurchik Tree with Sadistic Reflections of Blood. This was released on Severed Records. This came out in 2011. Unfortunately, this band has disbanded, but this is some killer brutal death metal, slamming brutal death metal. I enjoyed this quite a bit, and it's unfortunate that the band kind of split up after they released this. Apparently, there had been like some internal strife going on in the band prior to this because they were under a different band name before they released this, broke up, got back together under this name, released this, and then broke up again. But this is some pretty solid stuff. We have some more brutal death metal. This is Gurglectomy with Seas of Rotting Vomit. This was released on Ungodly Ruins Productions. Been out for quite some time. This is copy number 464 out of 500. This is some dark stuff. I mean, I know you can probably read some of those track titles there on the back, but this is some. I mean, this is some off-putting subject matters and stuff in this one. But I mean, I know that's pretty prevalent in a lot of brutal death metal, but this one, for some reason, this one just hits me. This is just so dark. It's not an easy listen. We'll just put it that way. Next up, we have Gootrectomy with Slamageddon, another 2011 release. 2014 release. They released an album that came out this year that is pretty good. I haven't had a chance to check the entire album out, but what I've heard off of it has been pretty good. This is another solid slamming brutal death metal release. This one is entitled Slamageddon, so I mean, you know, you're getting in some slam there, but it's pretty solid. This is kind of a three-way split label release. Rotten Rolex, Severed Records, and Amputated Vein all worked together to put this out. I believe their newest full length was released through Amputated Vein as well. I do have some Gutricide in my collection as well, but they are not on the shelf currently, so unfortunately you don't get to see that band. I know some of you would expect to see that right here, and unfortunately it's just not on the shelf right now. Next up, we have a band, some 90s death metal out of Ohio. This is Gutted with Bleed for Us to Live. This album kind of got a resurgence within the past, I'd say 3 or 4 years. People started kind of rekindling their looking and finding this album. This was originally released on Red Light Records, 1994 maybe, and Repulsive Echo. This pressing is the Repulsive Echo repress that came out last year. I picked this copy up from stabbyhamlet.com. They may still have some in stock over there. Well, the reason I picked it up from Stabby Hamlet, I still have the little outside OBI strip or whatever that is. But the reason I picked this up from Stabby Hamlet is the inside is signed by Billy Mills, the guitarist of the band. He signed some of these for Stabby Hamlet over there, signed them for Andy, and he's got them in his web store and distributing them out. Killer stuff. I think it's like $15, but the shipping is free. So if you haven't picked this one up, definitely head over to stabbyhamlet.com and grab yourself a copy. Nice little plug for my buddy there. And then the last one for this video, another band under the same name of Gutted. But this band is out of Hungary. I'm wanting to say they're more of a grindy, technical death metal band. This is their. I don't see the date on it. It's been out a little bit. This one is entitled "Mankind Carries the Seeds of Hell." Just some solid death metal here. I do like this one. I know it's been out. Probably, I'm wanting to say, for some reason 2011 is stuck in my head for every release that I'm showing today, but I don't know if that's exactly when it came out. This one's kind of dead center of the band's discography. They have some other stuff. This is unfortunately the only material that I own from them, but I do like this one. I've been rambling a lot today. I apologize. It's just one of those days, but hopefully the settings didn't mess up the camera and I'm not looking like I'm glowing or nuclear here, but that's all I've got for this one. I will be back next Sunday, and we will jump into the H section, and I may get a video up this week or not. I don't know. This CD collection series is kind of eating up my recording time, but we will have some stuff coming in the future. That's all I've got for today. You guys have a good week. Stay classy, stay metal, and I will see you soon. I promise.